setup. All right, what I'm doing is I'm actually taking the glass and, yep, not too tight. That's good. It doesn't have to be tight at all. It just has to be so it doesn't slide around. What I'm doing is I'm using 2 clamps. I'm going to bring that down and open this up. What these clamps do is they're actually angled like this so that I can turn them either way. That's good. And then scoot it right in. It's got to go more. And so I'm just going to twist that. Okay, then what I'm going to do is put a piece of white cardboard down here that I'm going to light, and then I'll place the salad on top of here. So here we have a basic setup. I've got a piece of glass on these little hinges. I've got a main light coming right here from right to left, and then I've got another light that's just hitting the background, and all it is just a white piece of foam core underneath the glass. And making sure that this light is low enough that it's only hitting that and not actually hitting the glass so I don't get a reflection. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay some pieces of lettuce on here just to kind of see how it works. And I probably have to back off a little bit more. So what I may do is I'm going to try to lower this down a little bit. So let's do that. Down, come on down, come on down, come on down, right about there. And then by just, let's flatten this out. So turn this whole thing so it kind of goes flat. And we're going to scoot the glass up just a little bit. So you have to loosen this, and then we're going to swing it back up just a little bit. And let's just toss that salad around a little bit and take a shot and see what it looks like. The reason I moved it down was I was too close to the camera, so the lettuce was too big. I need to make sure I can get more area so that I can make the lettuce split up. And what I'm doing is I'm taking a bowl. If I had a little more stands, I would actually take a stand and put it on the bottom of the bowl and actually mount it right onto the bottom of the glass, put a little hot glue on either end, and put it there so it rests. I want to give the salad a base where it came from, just so that we don't just have salad flying all over the place. So by looking at this, you can see the salad bowl comes in, and now the salad is flying out of the bowl. So right when we're ready to shoot, we'll fill this with lettuce, put this right up against the glass, and then the lettuce in the front on the glass will be in front of the lettuce in the bowl. And when I first did this, the guy was like, I want to see all your pumps and how you did that and everything. And he came in and he took shampoo bottles and he turned them upside down and they poured water on them and the water poured off the shampoo bottles. And so then they said, well, that's how we want it to look. And I was like, well, if you're going to have salad flying up in the air with strategically placed pieces of tomato and pepper, I want to make sure that we get it to look like it's shooting up. So I turned everything, put on a piece of glass, and did that so that I'm going to use one of those water spurts to make it look like it's coming up, and that's going to make it look like there's liquid coming out of the salad as well. Okay, so now that we have the exposure set and everything's ready, we're going to take the food off the glass and make sure the glass is nice and clean. So here, we'll take this food off. Here you go. And some glass cleaner. I don't think you need film of this, right? Now I've actually used plexiglass and glass tends to work much better. The thinner the glass, the better. You won't get a reflection of the lettuce back into the glass itself. But because I've got about a stop difference brighter on the background, that the light that's hitting the background is going to wash away some of those reflections that you actually see on the glass itself from the lettuce. Okay. Now what's great is I'm shooting 2/50th of a second at f/24, and I need the 250 to catch the action. Not really. Here we are in the kitchen. Now one of the things we're doing when we're doing this for the salad, the flying salad, we have to make sure that we get shapes they're going to look like they're flying in the air, like if they're spinning around. And also, with the cucumbers, I'm going to have her cut them on an angle, but be a little thicker so that I could actually lay them on the glass and have them standing up. So you actually get that three-dimensional look as opposed to just laying flat down. Because anybody could just take these things and lay them flat, and it'll make them look like they're flying. But if they're kind of on an angle like this, it'll give it the appearance that they're flying even more. So most of the time you're going to usually cut a tomato, usually with where the stem came off, and usually cut it down. But look how it looks when you cut it. You actually see all the white of the tomato. But if you take it and cut it the other way, cross-cut it, look at the difference and how you get a much nicer, a cleaner look of a tomato. And then it really comes down to positioning all the lettuce and all the pieces to make them look good and keeping them fresh. We have to spritz them before we go in the glass, because once I put them on the glass and I spritz them, you're going to start seeing those water droplets on the glass. One little trick to putting some of the food onto the glass and get it to stay is a product called Tacky Wax. And it comes in either a little bowl like this, you can kind of just spoon it out, or it comes in little tiny squares that are on wax paper. And sometimes this is a little easier to use because you can just kind of break them off and use them in little pieces and make little tiny balls out of them. And then a lot of times what I'll do is use just a small piece of a toothpick, break off an end, take the little Tacky Wax, put it on the end of it, and then when you place it right onto the glass, it'll stick, and you can put a piece of lettuce so it actually looks like it's flying on top of the glass. There you go. It doesn't look like it's laying on the glass. It looks like it's raised off. So again, I'm just putting some stuff in the salad right underneath here so I can hold it under the bowl to give it kind of a three-dimensional look. And go ahead and shoot. And there's our flying salad. I think we got it. Most of the times if you put real ice in the glass, it's definitely going to melt. But a company called Trend Grove Studios in New York has a lot of great ice products. You can see these are ice cubes. They have ice shards, either larger or smaller. They also have this stuff here that actually looks like crushed ice, and the more water you add to it, it actually looks like it's like a margarita mix. It's really great. But let's talk about making the glass look a little bit more frosty and cold. There's a trick to doing that. You take a paper towel and use a little bit of Scotch Guard and spray the outside of the glass. And then you just kind of let it dry. Now we have to wait for it to dry. And then once the Scotch Guard is all dry on there, make sure you get all those little pieces of paper towel off. And take a little spritzer, make sure to hold the glass the right way. And if you just spritz it, what will happen is the Scotch Guard will actually let the water bead up, because it keeps it almost like really crystal clear, and it actually makes the water bead up on the glass to give it that frosty look. You can also use turtle wax or any kind of a wax, like a car wax, buff the glass out with that, and then spritz it with water, and you'll get that cold feeling. And as you just gently spray it, the Scotch Guard will cause a little bit of a kind of a fog to the glass, but it'll keep the water beads to raise off the glass to make it look like it's extra cold. When we get that set, drop in our ice cubes, And always try to get an ice cube to just break the top surface. Let's talk about liquids. A lot of times you want to take some kind of a cola and show a cola in a glass. A lot of times you can see the cola is really dark, so a lot of times we'll do is we'll take and mix the cola with a lemon lime or a clear. It could be seltzer water. And what that does is it keeps the consistency of the bubbles and the foam the same, but it just dilutes the cola itself, so the color, and you can see here, the difference now between that. I think we made it just a little bit lighter so that you could see it on TV, but let's watch this. When we pour this into a glass of ice, the ice is going to make it even more clear. So now you can actually see that the cola is going through. You can actually see the ice. All right, let's take this on set. Okay, so ready to shoot this cola glass. We've got the light coming from the side, just so we can get an idea to show you the difference. Let's shoot this first. Okay, there we go. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to add a piece of foil card that I've cut to the same shape that the glass is. So when I put this behind the glass, it's going to actually pick up some of the light that's coming down through here. Make sure I don't see the card or the block. And there we go. And a lot of times the actual card or the block might have a little shadow. You can always grab another piece of ice as a block that's clear and slide it right behind that piece of foil card. And when you shoot that, you can see the shadow. You won't get it. So here's the difference between, you can actually see the shadow from the block, and by using the little extra ice cube, I don't see it as much. But I'm still not seeing enough light coming through there, so I'm going to rotate this card just a little bit, kind of staying where the camera angle is and looking at it, and then bringing that card down to position it just right. And then try again. And now we should pick up a couple more highlights on the top here. There we go. Now you can actually see a little bit more coming through the ice. And that's how we do cola with a glass and a little reflector. Okay, let's talk more about liquids. Now we're going to do some coffee and milk. And just because we did the cola, there's a lot of different characteristics with different liquids. So let's get into that, and I'll show you the difference between putting bubbles in coffee and bubbles in milk. Because it's a dark liquid, a lot of people will use soap bubbles, some kind of a dishwashing liquid, and you just take the liquid and you put it in with a little eyedropper, and it creates these little bubbles, and then you can take a spoon and spoon them out. The problem with the bubbles for the soap is it creates a little bit of a rainbow, so you'll actually see a rainbow in the bubbles in the coffee. So what I've used in the past is actual just egg whites, and if you just use a fork and mix up the egg whites a little bit, you see I get these nice little bubbles. If you want to add the little extra touch, you go in and do the same thing, but add just a little bit of kitchen bouquet into the egg whites and mix that up, and then use an eyedropper and just kind of make those bubbles like that. Then this has the consistency of the bubbles and the same color as the coffee. So when we spoon this out and put it in the cup, you'll see the difference. Okay, Margie, if you want to put those in, I'll move these out of the way. And all we're doing is we're taking just a couple little bubbles in the eyedropper and just putting them into the side. Okay, so what Margie did was she actually put the bubbles in, just dropped them in with a little eyedropper. We'll get a shot. And if we can, let's bring those back. I'll show you another little technique by using a spoon. Make a lot of your bubbles here, and then grab just a few of them with the bigger bubbles with the spoon, and then lay them right in next to where you want them to go. The spoon will keep them right in the spot that you leave them as long as you're touching the side of the cup. And then go back with your eyedropper and just move them to the point you want them. And all that does is it really makes the coffee look like you just poured it. Now what I want to do is, the coffee is so dark, I'm going to add a little card into the back of the cup. So I'm going to just slide this card right in here. Now a lot of people will use a boom with a Matthews stand, but I try to use things that are in the studio that are pretty inexpensive. And there we go. And now we've got a little bit of a highlight coming off this card. I'm going to turn this a little bit more, get a little more light on it. And that'll reflect back into the cup of coffee, which actually caused the dark part of the coffee to have a little more color to it along with the bubbles. And there we go. Let's move on to milk. Okay, so I'm dropping the bubbles into the milk and making sure that the milk looks nice and fresh. And the bubbles will create that nice little look for us. Okay, and there we go. Now what's important to realize is that if you're shooting milk, shoot milk. You have to shoot the real product. For the most part, anytime I'm shooting food, I'm shooting the real food if I'm shooting for that product. Take example of cereal. If I'm shooting cereal and putting milk in it, the milk tends to have a blue transparent cast to it. So we try to use something that actually emulates milk, but it isn't really milk. So because we're not actually selling the milk for the cereal, we're actually selling the cereal, but the milk will actually take the cereal and make it dissolve right away and make it soft. So what we use is a product called Wild Root, and it looks just like milk, but you can see the difference here on how much whiter the milk is compared to the milk, the real milk. And just like the ice cubes, Trend Grove, the studio in New York, actually creates splashes, so you can get water splashes or milk splashes. And you'll notice that the milk splash actually matches the milk in the Wild Root as opposed to the regular, milk that they have. So a lot of times when you see a splash coming out of a glass, it's usually just a splash like this with some Wild Root. So let's talk about the layout for the package design. I could either use the actual layout that I made, or I can actually just shoot the actual package. In most cases, you can do that. Again, if you're working with an art director, a lot of this stuff will be, you'll have this already ready to go. When they hand it to you, it'll be an electronic file, and a lot of times they'll be layered, so you can just drop the package in. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually draw out and outline this so that we can drop in our soup and make a little mask. I'm using the Intuos 4 tablet. It's just so much easier for me to use a tablet. I tell people all the time, so much easier writing with a pen than with a bar of soap. So what I'm going to do is, and what's really great about one of the features, especially using the pen tool, is that a lot of times you'll get really to an area here that you want to really get close up. There is a feature on here that's called precision, and it'll actually slow the pen down so that you can actually get it in the exact point that you need it. And then yet, by using this tool here, I can use the hand and get a nice point here, and then do the same thing, come over here, and then use the pen, again, clicking and dragging, bringing this down, click and drag. And then I'll just go through this whole thing and we'll make a mask. So now we take the picture, we just drop it in, put it in another layer, and we can move it around inside the package. I'm going to try to go a little more from the back on this. Now what I'm doing is I'm actually bringing the light way down to the bottom because I want it to skim across the top part of the soup to actually capture a little bit of those pieces of tortilla, and yet I'm still getting a little bit of a highlight coming right from this corner that's hitting right into the edge of the soup right in here. That's what's great about having these panels, because even if I'm running out of room in the front, I can bring that panel up a little bit more. I want to catch a little more fill light on the front of this dish because I'm so close with the camera. Okay. So the light's really down really low. Got a nice warm look on the background. See how that looks? And I think I might even want to darken this down a little bit on the back. So I'm going to bring this towards the front, right in front of the camera here, to get a nice clean look. But then I'm going to darken this background up a little bit. Grab one more card. And we are shooting on location today. So for the most part, like I have all these cards and different tools and things. I normally have a cart that's right next to me when I'm in the studio so that I can just reach over and grab them right away. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this card and I'm going to put it right in here to block some of the background. Because I really want the light to hit the soup and not the background. Okay, so now we're getting ready to take the tortillas and put them on top of the soup. And we've marked our spot with some of the flatter strips first. Yeah, that's good. Come around to the front just a little more. You want to bring that next one forward right there. And we need one more, like right in here. Like kind of right across this way, right in there. Good. Yep, that's great. And then we need another one like on this side over here, a curly one. And really when you're doing food photography, it's really trying to build the composition and the design of the food elements together so that they work in conjunction. So if I just shot the tortilla strips and you saw this, just a plate of tortilla strips, you know, it would just be kind of haphazard. But now we have to strategically place them on top of the soup so that they look good. And you don't want any tangents, things that are lined up exactly right next to each other. You want to always break them so you have a nice look. I still need one more piece somewhere over on the left side. I love the way it's just breaking the edge of the soup right in there. That's good. Let it come right down. I'm not crazy about that top one though.
About there?
Yeah, that's good. Let's kind of fold it so it comes down. I want this almost to touch the soup in the front. Right in there. Oh, perfect. Got it. That's it. That's it. Let's put our fill card in. Drop it like that. Bring this up to the background and fire. And see how that looks. And we'll do one more. One of the most important things when you're shooting food is to get the right color of the food and make sure it looks right. So you want to make sure that you white balance and make sure you get everything correctly, get the right colors. So I'm using a gray card that has all four, the gray, the white, and the black. And then this way we can match that color when we get the soup in there. Okay? So let's put the soup in. That's good. That's great. All right, I'm just going to scoot it over just a little bit. I'm getting a little bubble here. Let's come up like that, and got it. Okay, so now I've taken this shot, and I'm going to take this and use the move tool and drop it over. Now you'll notice that when I come in here, I just take that layer, change the order, so now it's sitting underneath, and now I can just move it around. Okay, and we're done. Okay, so after we got that shot, we looked at it, and we were happy with the pink, but it was a little bit dull. It looked a little dry and didn't make the strawberry pop at all. So what I'm going to do is add another light, pretty low power, and I'll use a grid on the front of the light and just put that right into the spot onto the background. I'll leave the modeling light on just a little bit. And what this will do, it'll give us a gradient. So it'll be a little bit lighter on one side and darker on the other. Okay, what we're doing next is we're going to do a really close-up shot of a strawberry dipping in the chocolate and then pulling it out. And what Margie did was we took some chocolate, melted it down, make sure it was nice and smooth. We had it a little thicker. We melted it down a little bit more just to get a little more liquidy consistency. And then what she's going to do is she's going to drop the strawberry in and then pull it. And then I'm going to have her turn it just a little touch. And we're going to try to capture it right then. Instead of using the light like we did with the corn and the peas from the back, I'm doing this more from the side so I get more of a side. I'm mostly lighting left to right. In commercial photography, we always started doing that because your eye reads left to right. Your eye will always go to the lightest part of the picture. So if we start from the left to the right, we're going to get a nice highlight and then a shadow on the other side. I'll use a fill card on the right side just to kind of kick some light back in, but we're ready to go. All right, Margie, let's see what you got.
Okay, tell me when
You need to come towards you a little bit. Right there. Right there. Hold it. Hold it. Got to make sure I get it in focus. And I'm going to actually have you pull that straight. Yeah, right there. Okay, and ready and go. Let's see how that looks. That looks great. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more light to the front. When you pull it out of the chocolate, I need you to come forward on the plate because right now you're just seeing the chocolate coming back up into it. It's reflecting the chocolate. Okay, so I want to put a card in the front just to kind of block some of that light back up.
So you'll need me to dip.
Can you pull it back just a little bit? Just straight back, straight back. Right there, perfect, right there. Oh, that looks great. Okay. You want to do that one more time? And we'll just go from there.
Dip it again?
Yeah. She's taking the strawberry, she's dipping it right in, and bringing it forward just a little. Oh, right there, perfect. Oh, that's great. Just like that. Now, most of the time, as you're shooting, you're going to start noticing a lot of the food starts looking the same. I've always said that the secret to food photography is backlighting. So what I did was I switched out the light here so I can bring it from the side. Just like we talked about with doing recipe books where the knife and the fork are always in the same spot, you don't want to keep the light in the same spot for every shot. You want to mix them out a little bit. So what I've done here is by using the light from the side and a little more fill coming from the bottom, it's going to make that strawberry look a little bit more richer. And when we crop into it, it's going to be just dynamic because you're going to get all these highlights from the left to the right. Let's try one more. And I'd like to get one more with a little bit bigger strawberry.
Okay.
Can you turn the strawberry, rotate it a little bit so I see more of a point? Like that. Right there, perfect. Yep, ready whenever you are. Bring it up. Oh, that looks great. Dip it one more time. Pull it straight up, nice and slow, nice and slow. Bring it up, bring it up, bring it up. Oh, it's great. Love it.
It's pretty.
Okay, next. So, let's talk about food styling and why it's important to have it. This food is done by a food stylist. This is not. This food is prepared, even though it's a prepackaged meal, it actually has a lot more definition and shape to it than this does that was done by a non-professional. So let's take a shot of it. For our next food, we're going to shoot cereal, and this time we're going to use the milk that we talked about before. We're not actually going to use milk, we're going to use the wild root because it has a whiter consistency to it, and since we're not selling the milk, we can put that in the cereal as what we're selling. So Margie, if you can bring the milk in, and we'll get this thing ready. Now see, she has strategically placed all of the flakes and the blueberries positioned correctly in the bowl. And she'll just pour the wild root right in where the milk would be. And what will happen is the wild root will actually settle to the, just so it's nice and flat around all the cereal.
Yeah, for your angle.
I need a little bit more on this angle and in that angle, these corners right here. Because I can see where it's going down into the bowl. There you go. What's really great about this, it really frames the flakes and it really frames where the blueberries are, and yet the milk is very secondary. And we're just going to wait for that to settle a little bit more so the milk gets nice and flat. And we'll put our fill card in, and we're ready to go. Got a little hole right on this side here. See right in there? Mm-hmm. Those two spots. And come forward. Yeah, right in there. So I know there's going to be a run on wild root next week. After this class goes through, because everybody's going to be running out to get it to do their cereal. Now I've got one little problem with that blueberry touching that other one, so I'm going to scoot that one back. Just like that. Good. All right. And let's take a look at that. See, I have a tangent right there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And again, like I said before, I shot this on a little bit of an angle, so the dish is actually kind of tilted, and then I'll go back in and I will do one more just as a flat, straight-on shot. I tend to use the lens blur in Photoshop as opposed to Gaussian blur, and I tend to do that a lot of shots. I'll try to shoot my images sharp all the way through and then come back and just try to do the lens blur, because if somebody comes back and wants to reuse that shot but they think it's too blurred, I can always go back to the original image, grab the full focus shot, and send that one out. And we're set. Now that we got that cereal shot, we could really have some fun. We can add the splash and then take this and pour this in and make it look like it's flying through the air. Get another little shot right here, put the fill card in, go for it. Well, I hope you had as much fun as I did doing these food photography videos. So let's talk about what we recapped. Lighting is important, using a food stylist is important. And we talked a little bit about recipe and package photography along with editorial. So until next time, keep on cooking.